Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. It is Monday afternoon. That means it's time for EFL Transfer Zone. My name is Sam Rourke, the Chief Editor of Football League World.co.uk, and I'm joined by my two colleagues, Chris Gallagher and Adam Jones. Chris, how are you getting on this afternoon?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. A good weekend of football and a lot of rumours to get through now.
Absolutely. And Adam, how are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, very good, thank you. You can tell that January is coming up because things are starting to heat up now, and I'm enjoying it, I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a plethora of transfer rumours to go through on this week's episode. As ever, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, please do send in your comments. What do you think of some of the rumours we're talking about? Who would you like your club to sign in the January transfer window? And who would you like your club to sell? We'd love to get your thoughts, but let's get straight into it. We're going to start off with Nottingham Forest. It's being reported that they are interested in Norwich City striker Adam Idah. Idah has struggled for game time in the Premier League with the Canaries. He's only played 72 minutes all season, but a very, very highly rated prospect at Carrow Road. Only 20, does have 13 appearances for the Republic of Ireland international team. So a player, a real top prospect that Norwich feel needs a little bit of championship game time. Adam, we'll come to you then first. Nottingham Forest linked with a move for the striker. Lewis Grabban's he's got back into form of late, hasn't he, under Steve Cooper? What do you make of this from a Forest perspective? Does this look like a good potential fit?
Yeah, maybe so. I think they're going for that type of mould, that kind of young striker. They were linked with Ryan Brewster as well. Shortly after the summer transfer window. Obviously, that's probably gone out the window now that Paul Higginbottom's really been appointed. He's not exactly been the most prolific player at a senior level. 3 goals in 17 matches last season. That's in the Championship. But he hasn't really been out on loan yet. And I think for me, he needs that chance to thrive. Brewster took that opportunity with both hands at Swansea City. Obviously, worked with Steve Cooper. They worked really well together. So maybe that's a big boost for Nottingham Forest. And I think as well, what it also does is give them the option, perhaps maybe when Max Lowe returns, or Jed Spence's future is kind of decided to switch to a 3-4-1-2. And I think for me that's a good kind of system for them to have as well, to switch it up to. I know that they've gone to a 4-2-3-1 now, and obviously it's understandable considering that Lowe's out at the moment, and there's uncertainties surrounding Jed Spence's future, but it gives them the option nonetheless. And I think for me it would be a reasonably good signing. I think the environment would also be quite good for him. I don't think there's a massive expectation of promotion, considering they were bottom of the table after 7 or 8 games. I know that they'd want to push, but it's not exactly like a Sheffield United where you're expecting them to get back to the Premier League. So I think for me it would be a good atmosphere for Idah to be in. So I think it would be a good move for him, and I think that will allow him to kind of flourish as well. Obviously, it's a bit of a risk if Lewis Graham gets injured, and then you've got a misfiring Lyle Taylor, and then you've got an inexperienced Idah. But I think I think Cooper can get the very best out of him. So I think this would be a decent move, considering that providing that it's cheap enough.
Yeah, I saw Idah play quite recently for Norwich when they played up at Newcastle. He came on and really kind of caused a nuisance up there. He's a very kind of big presence up top, isn't he? 6'3" in terms of his stature, and likes to hold up the ball. Is very kind of aggressive in his play, not afraid to get involved, given he is only 20, which is a good trait to have. Chris, I suppose what kind of qualities do you think he would bring to Nottingham Forest if he did sign?
Yeah, I think you've touched on it there. He's very mobile, despite his size. He's quite quick. He'll look to get him behind, and he just needs a typical modern striker in the way that he can lead the line and bring others into play. I think with Cooper's formation, that's exactly what you need, because he places a lot of emphasis on the midfield. They'll be getting him into the final third. So you need a focal point to do that, and also to score goals, obviously. I could see why Forest fans may be concerned when you look at his record, but it's as the case with a lot of young players, it's a bit misleading because a lot of the appearances are from the bench, so you're getting on for like 5-10 minutes here and there, and it doesn't really paint a true picture. So I think if he did get a chance, he'd actually be the ideal type of player for Forest, because he can mix it up, he can do a bit of both, and that's what Cooper will want from his striker.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that he has made a fair few appearances as the main striker for Republic of Ireland is kind of a showcase of his quality and what he could bring to a second tier side. So that's definitely one to watch. Adam Idah's situation at Norwich, Nottingham Forest, the club that are being linked with a move for him in the January transfer window. We will have all the latest on his situation over on footballleagueworld.co.uk. Let's move over to another story next. As ever, please do send in your comments in the YouTube live chat or in the Facebook comments. We want to hear from you. The latest one is revolving around Norwich once again. It looks like they are set to recall Jordan Hugill from his loan stint at West Bromwich Albion. It's fair to say it's been an underwhelming spell for the striker at the Hawthorns so far. Struggled for game time, mostly being utilised as a sub off the bench. Only one goal so far for the Midlands outfit. Norwich want to bring him back to the side. This is in turn with Adam Idah's potential move out that Hugo will come in to fill that potential void. Chris, let's come to you then. In terms of this, from a West Brom perspective, would you class it as a blow or given his kind of lack of impact, not so much?
No, I think the fans are still partying from the news because that's how it's gone for Hugo. It just hasn't worked out at all. It was one of those on paper. It looked a decent signing because of how Ismail plays. He's a big target man. He thought he could do well, but it just hasn't worked at all. I think his miss against Forest last week, it was a 0-0 last minute. I think the fans then, it was just like that was the tipping point for many. It was like booing him, and it was just the frustration with how he's done. So you do feel sorry for him because he has proven himself at this level, but for some reason, some transfers just don't work out, and this is one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Say this does come to fruition, Adam. Hugo does return to his parent club. Do you firmly expect Valérien Ismaël to make a move for a new striker in January? Because it does seem, given kind of some recent reports and what he's been saying in the press, a move for a new striker is high on the priority list.
Yeah, I think they will move for a new striker. Whether it will be the right striker, I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, the obvious target here is Daryl Dike from Orlando City. Obviously, scored 9 goals in 19 championship games for Barnsley last season, made a really good impact, and I'd back him to make a similar impact in the West Midlands. I really would. But yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to really bring him in. I think it's unlikely at the moment, if I'm honest with you. I think for me, the permanent option is too much for them at the moment. I know that I think it was Team Talk that quoted that he'd had a £17 million agreement kind of in his loan deal at Barnsley, and they won't pay that much money, not in the Championship. That's even more than Harry Wilson going to Fulham for 12 million. But I think in their point of view, the West Brom kind of board's point of view as well, is the fact that if they're going to bring him in on loan, I don't think that will be cheap either. I think they'll have to pay a couple of million for a kind of loan fee, and I don't think that the West Brom board will kind of stand for that. I think they'll see it kind of as chucking money down the drain, maybe, because he isn't going to stay there for the long term. But in the end, it could be a gamble that pays off for them if they get back to the Premier League. But I think for me, looking at it at the club at the moment and kind of the conservative spending policy, I think a move for Dike is unlikely at the moment. So I think they will move for a striker. But I think it will be maybe another cheap option. That's no disrespect to Hugo, but you looked at the signing in August when he came in, and you're thinking, they've brought him in because he's obviously he's a decent Championship striker, but is he one that's going to be pushing for promotion? Obviously, he was with Norwich last season, but didn't score the most goals. I think it was 4 goals in 31 appearances. So, yeah, it was a bit of a cheap option. No disrespect to him, he's still a good Championship striker, but yeah, I don't think they're going to invest in anyone that expensive. So, I don't know if I can see things getting better really kind of going forward in terms of recruitment.
Yeah, it's one to definitely keep an eye on West Brom's situation with regards to their strikers. But the latest is that Jordan Hugill is very likely to depart the Hawthorns in January and return to his parent club, Norwich City. Right, let's look at another piece of news next. This piece of news is a little bit more imminent than the ones we've spoken about so far. It sounds like Nottingham Forest are about to sign a new left back, a Swiss left back, Loris Benito, on a free transfer. Reportedly, negotiations are underway to secure a short-term deal for the player. He was released from Bordeaux back in August. Forest have kind of struggled in terms of their left back situation. Situation this season. We've seen Max Lowe out with injury. That's been a big blow. And Gaëtan Bong is at the only natural left back at the City ground right now. So there is a need to bolster in that department. I'd imagine none of us have probably seen much of Benito, so we can't necessarily comment on him too much. But Chris, as for Forest, this seems like a kind of an ideal stopgap solution to me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. Again, I can't claim to have seen him play much, but you just look at the clubs he's played for. You have Young Boys and Bordeaux in his last two clubs, and obviously played for the Swiss national team. So yeah, they're not. That's a good pedigree, isn't it, for a championship club? And as you said, it's as a stopgap. There's nothing really to lose. The fitness may be an issue, but if Cooper can work with him every day, and even if he only plays a few games over the next few weeks or months, he'll give him a chance to properly assess the player. And then I think he's 29, so if it does work out, they could pick him up and extend the contract, and then it would look like a smart bit of business. But I don't see there's nothing to lose with this really, so I'd go for it if I was Forest. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly seems like quite a low risk signing if this does materialise. Like you say, Chris, he was involved in Switzerland's Euro 2020 squad, which again suggests he has got some pedigree about him. Adam, in terms of the left back situation, Nottingham Forest, Max Lowe has been excellent during his loan stint from Sheffield United. Absolutely fantastic. Him and Jed Spence in particular, a real key element of Steve Cooper's style of play. When it comes to Gaëtan Bong, it seems the faith in his kind of ability isn't necessarily there. He's come into the latter end of his career. We've seen Jack Colback kind of be utilised as a left back on numerous occasions this season. Do you think, again, kind of asking a similar question I asked to Chris, is this kind of an ideal stopgap just during this kind of short-term period before the transfer window really kicks into gear?
I think maybe so. I think it affects the central midfield situation. Now, I'm looking at Brainer Jada, I'm looking at James Garner, I'm looking at Ryan Yates. And if they get a left back in Benito, then obviously one of them I think has got to drop out of that midfield, and it would be a shame because Jada's looked very good. I think all three have actually been excellent, really, and all three were good against Peterborough United on Saturday afternoon. So that would be a massive shame for me. So I think, selfishly, in my point of view, I'd like to see all three of them start in midfield. But obviously, Jack Colback's a really good asset as well. And you look at some of their other options at left back. Obviously, Osei Tutu isn't going to be back, I don't think, for another couple of weeks. And I don't think you can really rely on him at the moment with his current injury record. Obviously, you could trial out other people there. Obviously, Figueiredo, I think he might actually be right-footed, but I think ideally, if they want to be pushing for the top six, they've got to have orthodox options at left back. I think it'd be very different if they were just kind of languishing in mid-table and not really pushing for anything this season. I think they could afford not to kind of bring in a left back just for now. But for me, if they're going to push for the top six, and I think they will under Cooper, who's obviously got Swansea there in the past couple of seasons, for me, I think they have to invest short term in a left back. But I think I stress the aspect of short term at the moment, unless they get a couple of players off their books, because I'm looking at Nottingham Forest's possible wage bill, and they've obviously had quite a recruitment drive late on in the summer. And I'm just thinking, are they going to, teetering kind of with FFP? I'm not sure if they're going to come out the wrong side of it. If they have too many wages on their books, that's it's often the killer in terms of FFP is the wages. So it'd be a good short-term signing, but I think short-term, unless they can kind of get a few players off the wage books, and maybe that's what they'll do in January. Obviously, João Carvalho and those types of players that are kind of on the fringes, they could probably afford to let go.
Yeah, absolutely. Any Nottingham Forest fans watching this show, whether it be live now or on repeat on YouTube, send in your comments. What do you make of the potential signing of Benito? It looks like it's going to happen judging by the latest reports. Right, let's look at a few more bits next. Norwich, Fulham and AFC Bournemouth are among a clutch of clubs keeping tabs on Derby County goalkeeper Keller Roose. Roose's contract expires in the summer, and is the case with many Rams players. Sales are looking inevitable in this next January transfer window as they aim to balance the books after years of financial unbalance going on. In terms of Keller Roose, he's been a pretty much regular starter for the Rams this season. Chris, we'll come to you. What do you make of this particular transfer piece of news? Because, Roose has become quite an important player in Rooney's side, but as we all know, relegation to League One's looking pretty much nailed on. Would you expect to see Roose be one of them departures in the new year?
Yeah, I think I would, because of the contract situation that obviously puts Derby in a very difficult position. They're not going to be able to renew the deals, and they'll be planning for League One. And yes, it will be a clear out, I'd imagine. I'm not sure it would be a massive blow, because he's not been the most consistent, and he'll probably see this as a good chance instead of going down to the third tier to move to a higher ranked club, even if he probably will be number 2. But I do expect it to happen, and it'll be about agreeing a fee in January if you can, which won't be the biggest fee at all because of his contract. And I think he'll be one of many that Derby fans will expect, and probably won't be too disappointed to go. The fans will already be looking ahead to next year. They'll want the ownership situation sorted, and then to try and build and look forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of them 3 clubs, Adam, Norwich, Fulham and Bournemouth, none of them strike me as clubs whereby Roose would go in straight as the number 1, really. Norwich, Tim Krul has kind of made that place his own. Fulham, you've got Gallagher, Rourke, and Bournemouth, and Mark Travers is kind of impressing between the sticks for Bournemouth. Of them 3 clubs, Adam, is there a club that sticks out in terms of being a best potential suitor for Roose, or do you think another club should come in for him?
I think it's another club should come in for him. I think, obviously, as you said, that Bournemouth have got Travers and Nyland, and obviously Fulham have got Rodak and Gallagher, and you look at Norwich as well. We've got Krul and Angus Gunn as well, who's a talented goalkeeper. So for me, I think it would be a bit of a waste. I think for all 3, I think it would be perhaps less of a risk for Norwich at this stage because they're in the Premier League. But in terms of the Championship, I don't think you need more than 2 senior keepers. Just using a personal experience, I remember when Reading signed Sam Walker in 2018 to back up Vito Minone and Nancy Yakala. And I remember being absolutely furious with the signing at the time, nothing to do with Walker, but by the fact that we'd had 3 senior goalkeepers. And I don't think that's necessary, especially with restrictions. And as I said, I mentioned it in the last point as well, FFP. So I think it would probably be a bit of a waste at the moment. Obviously, both are favourites to go up, but there's no guarantee. And the existing options that they do have, all 3, I think are sufficient at the moment, unless there's a departure or if there's a long-term injury, which that could possibly happen with all 3, and then you've got to consider. But I think definitely, I don't think he'd be a first choice goalkeeper at any of the 3, to be honest, let alone the Premier League, obviously with Norwich. As you said, Tim Krul, I think, has nailed down that place. I thought Nyland was actually going to come in for Mark Travers in the summer, but obviously Travers has kind of made that spot his own. So if Nyland can't kind of displace him, then I don't think Roose will. And Fulham, I think they're quite fond of Rodak, I think, that the fans. So for me, I don't think this is one that's going to kind of come off for any of the 3, to be honest. And but I think for Derby County, it'd probably be the best move for them. Obviously, they've got David Marshall and Ryan Alsop. Rooney seems to like Alsop quite a lot. I was a bit miffed, really, why David Marshall was kind of relegated to third choice. I know he might not be that suited to the playing style, but still, he was Scotland's number 1 in the summer, so it was a bit of a strange one for me. So I think it would probably be the best move for Roose and Derby, but not for any of those 3 sides.
Yeah, one to definitely watch. Keller Roose's situation, as is the situation with a lot of them Rams players. Movement is expected in the new year. Let's talk about another Derby player next. We at Football League World understand the clamour to sign Tom Lawrence from Derby is really heating up. A wealth of clubs are eyeing a move for the attacking midfielder. Norwich, Watford, Burnley, and West Brom among a couple of the potential suitors for Derby County's captain. He is Derby's highest earner, and we understand he is keen for a move away from Pride Park in the new year. Chris, will come to you. Pretty much asking the same question as I did with Roose. Do you feel this one is inevitable that he does leave?
Yeah, again, it's because of Derby's situation and his contract. I think he's out of contract at the end of the season, so someone's going to get a good player there at a decent fee in January if he does decide to go then. I think we've you touched on there him being the highest earner, and if you believe the reports, he's on a lot of money for an awful lot of money for a championship club. So the administrators will definitely be trying to get him out the door in January, and he probably deserves it. To be fair, we all know what happened to him a few years ago, but since he's been given the captaincy, he seems to have matured as a player, and he's been quite versatile for Rooney as well, playing different attacking positions, and it's helped his game. I think Rooney deserves a lot of credit for taking it to helping him fulfil the potential that we all thought he did have, but he's started to show it a bit recently in a pretty poor Derby team, if we're honest. So yeah, I think it'll be a good time for everyone to go again. Derby will be looking forward, and he'll be looking for a better move at this an important stage of his career.
Yeah, like you say, Rooney has kind of been utilising Lawrence as a striker, and it's really come to, really made a real impact, hasn't it, in terms of his output in terms of goals and assists of late, which is certainly impressive to see. Please do let us know in the comments what you make of Tom Lawrence's situation. Do you expect him to depart Pride Park in the new year? We understand that Norwich, Watford, Burnley, and West Brom are firmly hot on his heels as we approach the January transfer window. Right, we've got one more piece of news for you next. We at Football League World understand that National League side Wrexham are looking to sign Joe Pigott from Ipswich Town. Pigott, of course, joined the Tractor Boys in the summer from AFC Wimbledon. He did, of course, score 20 goals last season for the London club in what was a real standout season for the forward. But Wrexham, a very ambitious club, big Hollywood owners now in charge. If you do remember, they did, of course, sign Paul Mullin, who bagged loads of goals for Cambridge United in League Two. Very ambitious club looking to make that step up back into the Football League. Adam, let's come to you. It's not really worked out for Joe Pigott at Ipswich Town as many would have perhaps expected. Macaulay Bonds kind of taking the reins as being Ipswich's main kind of threat up top. What do you make of this one? Because we received this news this morning, and Wrexham are very serious with regards to this. We understand, they are preparing a move in the new year. Firstly, let's just touch on Pigott then. It's not really gone on track for him, has it really?
No, it hasn't. But I mean, at the same time, I think he's probably too good for the fifth tier at the moment. He may get a promotion medal, obviously, with Wrexham there. They've got the resources to get back to the EFL, but I think it would probably be a waste of a year kind of in his peak. At Ipswich, it hasn't really worked out for him. I think that the sacking of Paul Cook might be a turning point for him, perhaps. I know that, as you said, Macaulay Bond's been the first choice, and deservedly so, because he's been in such good goal scoring form. But Pigott is also a really good option to have, and it's a shame that he isn't getting on the pitch. It almost seems like a waste, really, that he isn't getting on the pitch, considering how prolific he really was for AFC Wimbledon, obviously in recent seasons. It's a real shame, I think, that it hasn't worked out so far. But it'll be interesting to see, who's appointed, what system they go with, because he could easily be a starter. He's already proved himself consistently at this level, so there's no reason why a new manager wouldn't come in and go, well, he might go in the starting lineup. So for me, a move to the fifth tier at the moment, I don't think would suit him. I think Wrexham, it would obviously be a great move for them, but for him at the moment, I don't think it's the best career move, even though he's not getting that many potential opportunities yet, and obviously in what is probably the peak of his playing powers, kind of as a 28-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 goals in 11 appearances for Joe Pigott this season for the Tractor Boys. Chris, if you were appointed Ipswich Town's next manager and you came in, would you be keeping Pigott? Because we know how prolific he can be at this particular level. Or, if a sizable offer did come in from Wrexham, would you be tempted to part ways with him? What stance would you take?
I'd be looking to keep him. I think, as we touched on, he scored 20 goals last season. So this is a player who can find the net, and you can never really get enough of them, can you? As you said, Bon has become the main man, but he's going to need help. It's a long season, and yeah, if I was Pigott, I'd want to stick around because it's the new manager. You never know how it will play out. He'll back himself to make his mark at this level. So yeah, I wouldn't rush to do anything because obviously January's only a month away. That's not. You don't want to be making a decision with a new manager in a matter of weeks. I think the long season ahead, and yeah, I'd definitely keep him in the squad because he offers you something different up front, and he can score goals. So yeah, they should persevere with him. I think for the season at least.
Yeah, certainly one to watch. We'll have all the latest on Football League, but as we understand it, Wrexham are keeping a close eye on Ipswich Town's out of favour striker Joe Pigott in the January transfer window. Right, well, that brings this week's episode of EFL Transfer Zone to a close. Chris, Adam, thanks for joining me this afternoon. Thanks everyone for watching and getting involved in this show. If you're watching this show on repeat on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button. Please do like the video as well. It really does help us in what we do. But until next time, we will see you soon.